Welcome to Rally 101, and in this video we're going to explain to you how the handbrake works in the Hyundai i20 N Rally2 car, how we use it while we're driving, and how you can pull off the perfect handbrake turn. So when we talk about the handbrake in the rally car, the first thing we think is the big lever beside the gear lever inside the car. We pull this, it locks the rear brakes, and the car will spin around. Well, it's not that simple with a four-wheel drive car. When you've got all four wheels trying to rotate at the same time, if you just lock the rear brakes and the differential is still trying to drive those rear wheels, they're not going to lock and you're not going to spin the car around. So it actually starts with the differential. And this little part here, which is mounted on the front of the rear differential, we call the diff unlocker. Inside this diff unlocker is essentially a clutch plaque, very similar to what you see on the gearbox. And what this does is, upon activation, which we'll talk about soon, will disengage the drive from the prop shaft into the main input shaft of the differential, effectively freewheeling the rear axle, meaning that when the pressure is applied to the rear brakes, they can now lock because the wheels are not being driven. For this to activate, there needs to be a delta difference between the front and rear brakes of about 5 bar pressure. And what this means is that while you're still using the foot brake and using the handbrake, you can still unlock the rear diff, which means we use it as a real tuning tool and driving tool while we're driving in the stages. So for the diff unlocker to be activated, obviously inside the car with the handbrake lever, which we pull to activate the pressure onto the rear brakes, there is also an electronic sensor within the car that activates a hydraulic pressure to unlock this clutch pack. So if your diff unlocker is not working correctly, you might find when you pull the handbrake, the car wants to tend to lock up the front wheels and go straight ahead, giving you the sensation that the handbrake is not working. But rather than me just tell you about it, let's actually go check it out inside the car itself. So now inside the car, the one thing that maybe stands out the most is this big orange lever here, the handbrake. And in a modern day rally car, this is a very useful tool for many different reasons. But the first place that we use this is of course on the start lines for the launch control. So once we hook first gear, we'll pull the handbrake, press the launch button, and this will activate the launch system. Once we're ready to go, we drop the clutch and handbrake at the same time, and we're into the stage. Once we're in the stage, there's two key scenarios where we would be using the handbrake. One is a tool to help us with the rotation of the car through medium and sometimes even high-speed corners. And of course, and more well known, is tight acute turns where a handbrake turn is the only way we're going to get around the corner. In the medium and high-speed corners, we use a handbrake as a tool to briefly unsettle the rear to help us with that rotation. It is a quick dab. We don't want to be holding the handbrake or holding the pressure because this is going to be killing the speed of the car. So it's all about turning the front of the car in, quick dab to just get that rear to rotate a little bit to help us get through the corner as quickly as possible. And of course, once we're approaching a hairpin or a very tight corner, the only way we're going to get around it is we have to really fling the rear of the car around using the handbrake. To do this, we're obviously slowing down for the corner as we would be normally using the foot brake. But as we get close to the apex of the corner and to begin to turn in, we're going to pull the handbrake. What this is going to do is not only lock the rear wheels, but it's going to unlock the rear diff to allow those rear wheels to lock and to turn the car. How this works is we can see on the handbrake we have a master cylinder on the back. So like any handbrake system, we have the brake lines and fluid going through the master cylinder out to the rear brakes. So as we touched on earlier, once we pull the handbrake, it's not only going to lock up the rear brakes, but it's also going to unlock the rear diff to allow us to really fling the rear of the car around and rotate. So once we've turned into the hairpin, we've pulled the handbrake, the rear of the car is coming around, we're waiting for the rear of the car to be on an angle where we can then pick up the throttle and go again. But if you want the car to come around more, you can simply come in with greater entry speed, more handbrake pressure, more steering angle, and this is going to magnify how much the rear of the car is going to swing around. So the hydraulic handbrake is a really important tool in a modern day rally car, not only for the launch, start and handbrake turns, but as a handling tool to help us drive quickly. For more videos like this, check out our Rally 101 series, and remember, if you enjoyed this, make sure you like and subscribe.